Before the arenas, before the awards.
This is b4Nashville Live. Have a question for our guest?
Send it to us via Messenger.
Here's your host, George Davis.
Hey, everybody. How are you doing on this Monday night? It's Before Nashville. Thanks for tuning in tonight. Tonight, I'm going to be joined by a young guy who is, quite honestly, his new single you're really going to like. He's originally from, he was born in Virginia. He was raised in Massachusetts, I believe it was, somewhere up in there, and somewhere in the great Northeast. And we'll talk to him coming up in just 30 seconds, so hang out with me.
Before Nashville is proudly sponsored by Go-Go Tuners, the go-to tuner for professional and amateur musicians. Get your Go-Go Tuner at gogotuners.com. By Heart to Heart Coffee, the coffee that gives back. Find out more at heart2heartcoffee.com. By Sibby's Apparel, worn by heroes, made with respect. Order yours at sibby'sapparel.com. And by Three Rangers Whiskey, not for the weak or faint-hearted. ThreeRangers.com.
All right, and I want to give a shout out to our featured sponsor tonight, which is Heart to Heart Coffee. If you're looking for a great coffee that gives back to a cause that you are wanting to support, then go to hearttoheartcoffee.com. Go to their drop-down menu, and 10% of everything that you spend will go to that particular charity. So it's really awesome stuff and great coffee, I might add. Got a little bit of it right here. I am drinking coffee tonight, although some people do not believe that. Tonight, I'm talking to a guy. He's got a new single out. He's had a lot of success with his past singles, and we're going to find out more about him. It's Mark Taylor. Mark, how are you, buddy?
I'm great, George. How are you? Thanks so much for having me on tonight. This is so cool.
Hey, man, I am doing wonderful and appreciate you coming on. And we're just going to sit back and chat a little bit and find out more about you and how it all started and where it's at now.
Absolutely. It's been crazy. I'm in Nashville full time now. I'm 23 years old. I graduated from Wake Forest University about this time last year, and it has been the fastest year of my life. I can promise you that much. But originally born Virginia, like you said, raised in Maryland for 20 years. Went to college down in North Carolina, and through that kind of whole, madness of all over the place and touring, I've amassed somewhere in the, I guesstimate 1,400 show range, something like that. It's probably been more if I'm being honest, but opened for a ton of really cool people, played all over the world. It's been such a blessing in my life, but yeah, got to move to Nashville and get to do the thing full time now, country music.
How old were you when you first got into the industry?
Yeah, I mean, it was nuts. I started playing guitar with my dad when I was 2 and just kind of strumming nonsense chords up and down the neck and just having a good time with it. When I was 6 or 7 years old, I started kind of playing guitar with his band. He was in a little classic rock cover band back in Baltimore where we grew up. And ever since then, I got hooked, all through from the time I was 13, played my first professional show, you could say. The PA system was bigger than I was, and so was the guitar. And I think I made $50 for 4 hours. And it was incredible money. I thought I made $1 million.
Right.
It was $50 for 4 hours. And it was incredible. And I got bit by the bug in college and ended up writing some cool songs, and some of the songs started doing some things and found my way down here. But it's been a crazy, crazy ride. I'll tell you that much.
Well, I got to say, you're talking about the $50 being like $1 million. I remember when I first started, I played drums years ago when I was younger, and since old age has crept up on me, I don't quite have the articulation I used to have. So, or the speed for that matter. But I remember, the first gig I played, I think I was 16 years old, and it was with a band, and I think I made like $75, $100 or something. We played 2 nights on the weekends. And for a 16-year-old, didn't even have a car yet. His dad had to take him to practice. But hey, I was making bank, I was pretty impressed.
I mean, $75 back then. I mean, come on, $50 when I was 13. You would have thought I made $1 million. I mean, it was to the point when I was growing up where my dad and I, like I said, my dad was a musician. We'd have to lie about my ages to clubs and different places and stuff like that to get me in the door to play. I wasn't even trying to drink. I just had to get on stage. So,
Right.
It was hilarious growing up because he came up through the music pipeline, and just it was a really fun way to do it. And like you said, when you're 13, 14, 15, 16 years old, that money, that to me still is more than I can ever make. You know what I mean? It was so valuable to me having that $50 in my pocket and saying, I just made money playing music for the first time ever. And that was such a cool experience for me. And it sounds like the same way playing drums.
Yeah, I mean, I loved it, and it was a great time. Now, you're 23, so 90s country is not exactly something that you listened to a lot growing up. I mean, you probably did. I'm not going to say you didn't, but it wasn't like probably your music of choice at that point.
I'll tell you what was funny is that people think I'm, like we were talking about before we hopped on here. I'm an 85-year-old man at heart. I grew up. My grandfather used to rent jukeboxes out to old back in the 50s and 60s, to old like buildings and stuff like that. And so we have an old jukebox in my basement of original 45s from the 70s. So for me, I would go down there because I'm 23, I was born in 99. So a lot of my life was pre-iPhone, that stuff was big. So, if you wanted to go hear a song, you had to get on like the early internet, click on Internet Explorer. It took 45 minutes to load. Maybe you could hear something on YouTube or something, or go on iTunes from your iPod and buy something for 99 cents. Imagine buying music nowadays. We would go down to the basement, and it was actually my mom's old handwriting from my grandfather. And she wrote out all the old Eagles records and Queen and Billy Joel, and that's the stuff I grew up on. So for me, that you hear a lot of my music, it's big harmonies, it's big choruses, stuff like that, because that's the music I grew up on. And I always joke with my grandmother, the first CD I ever got was actually her Alan Jackson CD. I'll butcher which one it was. It was the one he's wearing that blue shirt on the front. But I stole it out of her car when I was 4. Because we were moving to Baltimore from Virginia, and I was like, I really like that one. I'm going to take that one with me. And she was like, what are you doing? But I remember I still have it somewhere in here. I stole her little Alan Jackson CD out of her car so I could take it and put it on our little CD rotation in our Honda minivan back in 2004. But yeah, I mean, for me, it was, Alan Jackson, Brooks and Dunn, all that kind of stuff growing up, George Strait, and then the Eagles, and, all that old stuff for me is really great music.
Right. I can't imagine listening to a jukebox. Well, I can because I've done that, when I was younger, listening to songs on the jukebox. But kids today, they don't know what a jukebox is. The younger generation has no idea. And they're missing out on something. I mean, I come from the vinyl era, and I've gotten back into vinyl, and I've started collecting. And there's, to me, just nothing like a good vinyl record. A 45 or an album or whatever.
Oh my! And it was so funny because so "Come On Eileen" on our jukebox was it was like 1, 2, 4, whatever the heck the numbers were. You punch it in, got hit it a couple times, and when you get to that third chorus, we had played it so much it actually scratched, so it would skip to a different. But so that for me is like, I have such fond memories of my entire family going down to the basement and playing those old records, and you got to literally see, and it was so cool because you'd see the little conveyor belt thing pop out. Mm-hmm. The 45 would slide in. It was a little rotating thing, and it would jump right into the record player. It was great, but that, people don't know what that is nowadays. You know what I mean? If you say an LP, people 76, 45, no one knows what the heck that is anymore. So, for me, being able to, go back home every once in a while and spin a couple of those old 45s makes my day.
Oh man, that's great stuff. Like I said, I've gotten into vinyl and albums and stuff, and trying to complete my vinyl, with the turntable. I bought a turntable and got to fix it. It needs some work on it, so I'm going to get it worked on and stuff. But it's just so cool. Now, as you were going through all this, when did writing creep into your mind?
Yeah, it was funny because I was always, I forever I was playing cover gigs and doing I'm at this point 17, 18 years old throughout high school. It's not really cool to write songs then, I guess, right? So, I mean, I'm playing my favorite covers in the radio, doing that kind of thing, just kind of making money going around the local bar scene in Baltimore and Virginia and Pennsylvania, Delaware, all that mid-Atlantic area.
Mm-hmm.
And in college, it was funny because the pandemic hit, and I'd written a couple songs, but not a ton, and they weren't very good. So I tried to write a couple more songs, and truth be told, my family during the pandemic was driving me nuts. I was a sophomore in college, and I was like, I need to go away for a while and go write some music because they are driving me nuts, and I have nothing else to do right now. So it kind of became a necessity because we have this loud, obnoxious dog in the house. My dad's trying to work. My mom's trying to work. My sister and I are both in college, and my other sister's in high school. So you can imagine the Wi-Fi is horrible at that point. The dog's barking like crazy. Everyone's up in each other's business all day long, and it was terrible. Like you could not move in that house. So I locked myself away and wrote a bunch of music, and ended up doing that record in college with Buzzed on a Boat and I'm Down and all that kind of stuff. And it was really cool. And I swore I would not, be on the performer or writer side of the music industry forever. I swore it off. I was at Wake Forest University. I was considering law school. I was going to be a manager, a business side of it, whatever. I wanted nothing to do because it's such a crazy industry. And I knew what I was getting into. That's the problem. I knew exactly what I signed up for when I did this, but I knew it a little bit back then too. And then I was interning during the pandemic for a publishing company and a record label. And my boss had heard some of the stuff I was writing. He said, "Hey, we have this artist, Amy Stewart. She had that big song, Knock on Wood, back in 1979. It was ironically on that jukebox, which is hilarious. So I knew her very well. And he said, "What do y'all, let's write a song for her." I was like, "Okay." So we get together all on Zoom, and a couple months had passed, and I hadn't heard anything about the song. And it was a song, I write 100 of them 200 every year. It's like, it's another song. It's great. It's cool. I didn't really think anything of it at first because I sang it in this country demo kind of style. Wasn't doing it for me. And then I get an email about Christmas time a couple of years ago, and my boss was like, "Hey, we took your voice off the demo, and Amy actually put her voice and her production on the demo." And I was like, "Well, that's great because I'm a terrible singer for this song. She's going to make it work." And I heard her voice, and I was like, "Oh my God, this is unbelievable." And literally all from a Zoom, right? And then a couple of months passed after that. They said, "Hey, we think this is going to go on the record." I'm like, "Great, I got my first cut. This is going to be awesome." And then after that, they said, "Hey, you have your first single, and it's going to be the single off the record, and we're going to promote the heck out of it." And it did a lot of really cool things for me. She's been touring with it. She lives in Italy right now, and she's been touring all over Europe with it. And it's her encore song right now, and it's been incredible. So I got bit by the bug my junior year of college when that stuff started to kind of go down. And I said, "I'll give it a year in Nashville. We're coming up on a year, June 6th. And I don't think I'm going anywhere anytime soon, knock on wood." So I got bit by the bug.
And Nashville is such a crazy place. I mean, the good thing about Nashville, which some people will argue, you don't have to be in Nashville to be a part of Nashville.
Correct.
And some people will say, well, you got to be there because you can't get the feel. And that's true to some point. I mean, yeah, there's certain things that, Zoom rights are not always great to do. And you can't get the whole vibe of a song you're writing over Zoom. And, since we're finally out of the COVID stuff, hopefully, are enough that everybody can get out again, it's back to business as usual,
And that's the thing is that, you can definitely be a part of the community from outside. I'll tell you, it's challenging whenever folks kind of ask me, "Oh, should I move? Should I visit? Whatever." My answer always is you spend as much time as you need to and you feel you need to in Nashville, because whether that's visiting, whether it's living there, I know guys that come down here 2 weeks of the year, they come for 2 weekends, 2 days, whatever. If you're coming down and investing in those relationships, that's going to pay off. From a lot of what I have seen, most of Nashville is that kind of, we all go out on a Monday night to the same 3 bars, all the writers and all the artists. And all of a sudden you're sitting, "Oh my God, I run this publishing company. I'm at this label. Come on over tomorrow to the office and play me 4 songs. Come do this. Do you want to come open for so-and-so?" That kind of stuff is for me as an artist first. That's the important part to me in Nashville. Not to say you can't do it from afar, but, investing time in those relationships, be it over Zoom or be it in town, or how much time you can spend here in a major market, New York, Austin, something like that, LA, something like that. That's kind of what I see happening.
Right. And you're absolutely right on that, because it's all about relationships in any business. It doesn't matter what it is. It's all about relationships. And with Nashville, it's hard to build those if you're not there at least, a little bit of time. You can't just stay away the whole time. And sometimes a weekend's not enough. I mean, I've got buddies that go down there for, they'll go for a month at a time, stuff like that. Or they'll, take the wife and kids down. They have a condo or something like that, and they'll go hang out, and that kind of thing. And it just does so much good for them because they get those interactions while they're down there at that time.
Absolutely. And I actually used to play hooky from college, which was hilarious. So I used to come down here and some of our classes were on Zoom and I had off Fridays sometimes. So I'd skip town on a Thursday and come back on like a Tuesday. And I mean, so when I say I've been in town a year, I've really been writing in Nashville for like 3.5 years, something like that now, because I skipped a fair amount of class to come down here and write a bunch of songs, and don't tell my parents, but I'd come down here and, because there's a phenomenal quote from Ed Sheeran, and he talks about songwriting and being an artist as when you come back from vacation, you turn your water on. He was like, the first 10 seconds of the water are crap and it's brown water. You don't want to drink it. He goes, after that, though, that's when the good stuff starts flowing. So it took me a good 1.5 to 2 years to get all the crap out of the way. And
Right.
I might still be writing crap now. I don't know, but some of it's getting cut. So I hope it's not crap. But, it takes a little bit of that time every once in a while to, really work on the craft and invest time in town. But yeah, it's a great city.
And anything worth doing is worth investing in. It doesn't matter if it's,
Absolutely.
however long you have the time. I mean, it's great if you have time to devote a lot to it, but a lot of people that are just starting out writing,
Yeah.
maybe they don't have that kind of time. And so they just spend a couple of hours or something like that. And that's all well and great. You got to hone your craft.
And that's the thing. It's like you come down here and there's a reason it's a 10-year town, right? Because no one shows up day one and is all Ashley Gorley in 2 minutes. Like it takes years and years and years. Lainey Wilson has been working at this for 12 years and
Right.
no one knew who she was for probably 10 of those years, right? And that sounds harsh, but like she's at the top of the game right now, right? It took 12 years to get there. So like that's the thing people don't necessarily get when they move to town right away is, okay, I'm ready for a record deal. Let's go. We're on day 3. Okay, where's my record deal? Where's my publishing contract? Who am I going on tour with? And like that's great to be ambitious, but it's a 10-year town for a reason. You got to get in line behind everybody else. And I'm far back in line right now compared to some of these guys, but it's a crazy town full of neon dreams, right? That's what Aldine said. So
Exactly. And the thing about Nashville that is there's so much talent in
Yes.
Nashville
yes,
because people come from all over. They've been guided there by friends or managers or producers that they've met or family, and they've been guided there, and they
yeah,
play the circuit down on Broadway, which to each his own is the way I
sure.
look at that,
Yep.
But you really have to want it in order to put up with the 10, the 12, the 15 years. I mean, some people 10 years doesn't cut it.
Look at Walker Hayes, right? I want to say I'm going to misquote here. I think it was maybe 15, 16 years, something like that. Like
Yeah.
crazy. But again, top of the game right now. Like that's the whole there's a million ways to skin the cat, right? You can do it 155 different ways, but like what you said before about just investing time in anything that's worth doing is worth putting the time into. And that's songwriting, that's being the artist. I don't care what job you want to do in the music industry. You're going to start at the bottom everywhere.
Right.
No one starts at the top. You got to work your way there. And honestly, it took a while for me to kind of realize this, but that's how you meet your people, right? Like this is the kind of time when you're in the trenches and everybody, I have friends that everyone's starting to kind of get signed now to different things and people are you move together, which is really cool. And everyone has these classes and everybody kind of starts to migrate to the same things and you start to kind of all elevate. And it's really cool to watch. But yeah, it's just putting the time in and trying to get the hours and 10,000 hours, right? What's that old quote? Put 10,000 hours in.
Um, are you more geared to becoming an artist or a songwriter?
I want to be the artist. I love writing songs. I've been very blessed to have a good amount of songs cut by some cool people, and it's going to be a really good 23, and I'm really excited about that as a songwriter. But, it's for me, and we're doing a bunch of really big festivals for me as an artist this year, and we actually got off the road this morning. We were in Washington, D.C. up until this morning. So I was on 5 flights in 5 days. We've been all over the place, and that's not even close to the biggest run we're doing. It doesn't really start till June. But for me, it's, getting to open up for these really cool artists right now, getting to play on festival bills with folks like John Party and Zach Brown and Dan and Shay. That for me is like the bread and butter of what I want to do, when I grow up, right? It's like, that's what we're starting to do it now. That's what I want to keep doing. And I just love being on stage and entertaining people. If you can't tell, I love to talk. It will be my downfall in life, but I love talking. And for me, my mom always said there's never been a camera or a microphone Mark does not love. And I love that stuff, and I love being on stage and entertaining people, and it always just makes me happy. Don't get me wrong, I love songwriting, but that's the end goal. And if my songs get cut along the way, awesome. But I love being the artist first and foremost.
All right. And I was reading earlier today about some of the festivals and stuff that you had been on and of late.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, I think that was in an email from your publicist. I don't have it pulled up.
Okay.
I've got the one sheet that she sent out pulled
Yeah.
up right now. But I mean, you've been on some major festivals and you're getting ready to go to some big festivals too.
Yeah, we are.
I think was Stagecoach one of them that I saw?
No, we're doing Country Fest, actually. Stagecoach is last year. We're doing Country Fest. So the big ones, we just finished up Tin Pan South, which is ironically a big songwriters fest, the biggest songwriters festival in the world. And then the other big notable shows this year up in New York, we're doing Frog Fest with Russell Dickerson and Gloriana, which is going to be really fun. We're opening for Russ up there, which is going to be a great time. And then that actually a couple days after that, we're going over to Wisconsin to do the Country Fest with John Party, Zach Brown, Dan and Shay, Billy Currington, Ernest. It's like 50 artists. And I am so fortunate and so blessed to be a part of that. And it's going to be really cool. We're on a great stage. We have a great time. It's going to be really cool. So I feel so grateful. But yeah, and then in addition, we're just routing all over the country. I mean, it is
Right.
I mean, we are. I'll give you the summary of the last couple days. Just from Thursday on, I went from Nashville to Charlotte to Hilton Head to DC to Virginia. Now we're back. Then I go to Key West for 5 days. Come back. Then we hit. We're up in DC, Maryland, North Carolina, Richmond, Virginia, then back, and then we're in Arkansas, and then we do a bunch of CMA Fest stuff in town. Get to play Bluebird in Nashville, which we announced about an hour ago, which is going to be really cool on June 3rd. And then from there, that's not even the begin. Then the tour starts after that, and then it's like Boston, New York, New Jersey, upstate New York, Wisconsin, Minneapolis, Chicago, we're all over the place. So it's getting
Wow.
Yeah.
That is just so nuts.
I'm excited. It'll be fun.
I mean, you're talking about like just all these artists, like you said, being at Froggy Fest and then being over in Wisconsin at that show, and all the artists that you're going to be working with, which I just saw a couple of days ago, or I guess it was last week, the lineup that they had for the Froggy Fest.
Yeah.
Which is a huge thing.
It's a huge festival.
And I was just like, man, and then now you're talking about all these other people you're going to go out and be with. And you've been heard in so many different countries, Australia, Ireland, Switzerland, the UK, probably more than that.
Yeah.
With your
Australia, for some reason, loves it. I think it's hysterical, but if any Aussies out there, thank you so much, because the streaming over there is hilarious to me. I love it.
It was kind of like a trade. We get Keith Urban, they get everybody we have.
Exactly right.
So I mean, it's really cool. I mean, I know like the people in Australia and the people in the UK, the C2C festival and those places.
Yeah.
It's amazing the number of people that they have come out for those. It is just so unreal. People over there are so craving American country music.
And me being a dumb American, it's like I never would have even thought. I'm like, oh, we probably stay within the 50 states, whatever. And I've only played a couple times out of the country. It was very small things. It was years ago. It wasn't anything recently, but like just to like see these streaming places. We put out this new song about a week and a half ago now, and like looking at where it's being streamed, and I can see where the little dots are popping up, and I'm like, I don't know anyone in insert country 1,000 miles away from here like that. It's just it's crazy to me. And again, I feel so fortunate. It's the glory of the internet. It's like we can put music out and it can be consumed all over the world, and it's so cool because I'll get random DMs and messages on Facebook or Instagram or TikTok or whatever of like, hi, I live in this random place and I just heard your song and it moved me because of X and Y and Z. And that to me is just so cool. Like that. And I would never know. And it's just me being a dumb American, but like I would never know that's out there. You know what I mean?
Right. And it's weird because I looked at the podcast analytics when I first
Yeah.
started pushing this out to Spotify. And I was seeing Australia and I was seeing the UK and all these and I was the same way. It's like I don't know anybody over there. They don't watch the videos from the podcast, but somehow they pick it up and they listen, and it was like consistent because I could go back and look and see, like Brisbane, people be listening there, to every show. And it was just hitting something that people liked, and kind of like me hitting the mic stand right there that people don't like. But it was just as resonant, I will say that. The resonance of that was just as much. But if you could go back to yourself at, say, 13 years old and give yourself one piece of advice about the industry, what would that advice be?
It's a very easy one for me because I think this is the biggest thing that every individual struggles with in Nashville. And you got to put blinders on like a horse race. You got to keep looking forward because the problem is reasonably there's like 1,000 people in Nashville that are all probably being considered for like record deals, publishing deals, that kind of thing, that are all really doing it full time. It's really hard to do this full time and not have another job. So there's probably 1,000 people doing that, right? I'm guesstimating some rough numbers here, but if you have 1,000 people really doing that, there's going to be people that get big tours. There's going to be people that get cuts. And you're going to sit there and go, well, I'm better than that person. Or, this person, screwed me over at one point. Like what? So it's Nashville. It's a relationship business, but you can sit here and think of a million different things about, oh, this person, well, why didn't I get that because of this? Or why, I deserve this. I deserve this. And you can't look left and right. That's the hardest thing to do. And everyone does it. It's part of human nature. You're going to look left and right and say, well, that's cool. And whenever it happens to my friends, I'm so happy and joyful. It's so cool to see. But you look kind of outside your little group every once in a while, and you're like, well, why did that person get signed here and here? Like, I know so and so. So look forward, stay your course, and understand that success is different for everybody.
Right.
And I was telling somebody this morning. It's like, the definition of success, you take the songwriting example, right? Most, not all, but a lot of songwriters have no desire to get up in a stadium and sing every night. They want to write the songs. They want them to be sung in the stadium, but they want to be able to leave that to somebody else. And I know a lot of artists, conversely, that want no business writing the songs whatsoever. So you would sit there and go, insert artist X here, can fill a stadium, but can't write a song. Not a successful songwriter, but a successful artist. So, for 13-year-old Mark, I would say, define your version of success.
Mm-hmm.
Don't pay attention to anybody else. Just do your thing. Everyone will end up where they're supposed to be, and you just have to trust the process at the end of the day. That's all we can do.
Right. And that's one of the things that I've always said. Everybody defines success in their own way. Your version of success may not be the, playing Gillette Stadium or playing, the Coliseum in LA or, any of those big places, say like Kenny Chesney plays.
Yeah.
Your version of success may be playing, amphitheaters across the country or bigger clubs, but
Absolutely.
You're still successful in your mind because that's what you want to do,
Absolutely. And that's what I tell everybody. And Nashville is hard enough as it is. Don't make it harder by looking left and right because you're going to see a million things you don't like.
Right, exactly. And the one thing that I've always heard people say, everybody in Nashville, when you start off, you're a small fish in a big pond.
Correct. And that, honestly, I'll say one more thing about that too. And for folks that are listening who are interested in moving to Nashville, remember this thing. Think of every small town in America, East Coast to West Coast. They all have somebody that's probably as good as you and me,
right?
Probably better than you and me, that's going to move here. And also remember this, I'm going to screw up the stat, but it was something like 85 people move here a day, a lot of which are for the music industry. So understanding that everybody who was their big star in their hometown is coming here at some point to do country music. So understand that it is a very large pond. Because I came from Baltimore. There were reasonably 5 or 6 people that did country music there. Like it wasn't, I didn't have to fight for shows. I'll tell you that much. Because
Right.
no one else was doing this. You come down here and it's like, yeah, okay, we got 64 people in line waiting to play too. Why should we pick you? So you have to figure out what sets you apart, but understand that this is a very large pond. I'm still a very small fish in this pond, and I know that. But
Right.
understand that when the day you move here, you're a very small fish in an ocean.
Yeah. So, with what you said, what is unique about your music that would make somebody want to take you in or
Yeah.
put you into a venue or something like that? What's the niche that you have that people go, this guy's really good?
Well, I appreciate that. For us, it's threefold, and this is something I talk to my team a lot and the band a lot about. First thing for us is a live show. Live show always comes first. I am a performer. I'm an entertainer. I want to be out in front of people. Putting on a good live show for me will always be how we make money, how we push merch, how we sell tickets, how we get the word out there. I can
Right.
post on TikTok all you want. How many TikTok people do you know that can't put two people in a room, right? If they go to tourist city. So understanding that first of all, we're going to be live show based. And that for me has helped so much because, my guys we can make money that way. And that's great. It's really hard to make money off streaming in this industry right now. So the ability to focus on the live show immediately is first and foremost for us. Secondly, and my producer Leland Grant had this really great quote, and I steal it from him now. But Nashville is a box, right? So we have the box, and modern country music right now is kind of right in the middle of the box. I'm pushing as far left of that box while still staying in. It's still popular country music. We're pushing
Right.
that as far as we can because I want. There's a great songwriter down here, JT Harding, who told me this a long time ago. If you chase radio now, by the time you get there in 5 or 6 or 7 years, that's going to be the old sound. We're going to be on something else. So create your own stuff and don't worry about what's going on. So for me, it's creating that sound. And that third kind of piece right there is kind of what we call the Garth Brooks side of things, which is combining the two of those and pushing your own sound. And I'm sure we'll talk about Dust Off That Dirt in a little bit. But for those of you who have heard it, it's 90s country mixed with a little bit of kind of modernness in there too. There's steel guitars all over it. There's a lot of really different stuff going on. That's what's on the radio now. And the reception's been great. So we're trying to really push that and do this new thing where we're bringing, and this is the third part, bringing that kind of Garthiness back of, really unique and original material, still while kind of painting that box a little bit, but being on the left corner, the right corner, lower right corner, whatever. So we can create this new kind of sound and then transfer it over to that live show so we can, make that transition seamless. But that's kind of the three things I would say that, we model a lot of what we do off of Garth. And he's
Right.
my idol. He's who I want to be when I grow up. And that to me is like, that's success. That for me is like how I kind of I would love, if I can come within the same zip code as that, I'll be thrilled. But like the way he wrote his songs, the way he performed the songs, the way he cut outside songs, the way he performed those songs is so unique to me and so special. And there's a reason, Country of Ireland, 25% of the Country of Ireland went to his shows when he was over there. It's like stuff like that is insane. He's still selling out, stadiums now. And he's Garth Brooks. It's crazy. He's been doing it for 30 years. So that's kind of what, in my opinion, what makes us different. And just the really big emphasis on the live show.
I like what you said about what JT Harding said because, where he said, if you're chasing radio, is that a downfall a lot of country artists have today, in your opinion, that they say, I'm making music for radio?
The problem is the average, it takes so much money to get to radio. Like you need a ridiculous, and it changes there's radio promoters are so expensive. And this, I mean, it takes a lot to get to radio, and then to be successful at radio is even harder. You can get there, but then to get played, to get added to stations, like that's a whole nother just ridiculous, massive job to do. And I see a lot of artists now, and it's a shame because some people don't write from the heart. They're writing for the radio. And you can
Right.
write for the radio, but also understand that, like, nowadays, and this is a really big question, but like, nowadays, if you're writing a Morgan Wallen song, right, you're going to want to have a personal connection with him if you're going to want to write for that record, right? You're going to have to be some someone's going to have to be over there to pitch that song to Morgan, because that's how songs get cut nowadays. They're either pitched or the artist is in the room. And often right now, the artist is in the room. So if you're not writing for a Scotty McCreery right now, and he ain't sitting next to you, not talking about putting that song on the radio and making it a single and cutting it, it's like, just do your own thing. But I'll tell you what's really cool is if you look at the ACM nominations this year for album of the year, I'm going to forget the whole list, but the two that stuck out to me were Luke Combs and Lainey Wilson. Lainey's record is like straight out of the 70s, which I love. We modeled so much off this stuff. It was a mix of Lainey and Garth for this record we're doing right now. Luke Combs' record is really cool. You know, it's got these different sounds in it. There's a lot going on there that is not necessarily pop country anymore, right? So we're getting to a point where I hope people in my generation can really get back to, you know, writing the best song for them, not the best song for the radio, because it's a formula for the radio sometimes, and we all know it. I mean, there's a lot of times where we can sit down and say, okay, we need to have these two choruses. There's a bridge, there's a down chorus, and there's, you know, we finish off, there's a little tag, and we're out. And that's, you know, the formula nowadays. But understanding that in that 6 to 7 year period before you get to the radio, things are going to change so much. Look at Fancy Like, look at TikTok. Like, did you ever think a song about Applebee's was going to get to the top of the radio chart? No, like that. No, I would never have guessed that, but it was really cool that it did. And TikTok totally changed the landscape for that. So, but Walker had been doing that forever. I mean, I've been a Walker Hayes fan since 2016 when he had all these big, like that to me it was just a continuation of that. But for everyone else, it was this brand new thing that had never been heard before by kind of mainstream radio. So, but if you ask Walker, he'd been writing that music for 15 years. So he stayed true to himself. He stayed in town. That's the biggest thing. And he's being rewarded for it now. So it's staying your course the entire time, I would say.
Right. Another artist that I like that's kind of along the same lines that I think is just amazing at what he does is Mitchell Tenpenny.
I love Mitchell. Oh my God. Yes, absolutely.
The first time it was the second time I went to Nashville for CRS. I went to a showcase by the independent promoter that he was working with and just fell in love with his music. I mean, we got the album and I've got it upstairs with my, with my record player that doesn't work, my turntable that needs working on stuff. But I had the CD too, and I would listen to the CD in the car, and he had, like, on that first album that I got, he had Ace Frehley of Kiss playing on one of the songs. Yeah. But he still wrote the same music that he's writing today. You think about what's the latest one he's got? We've got History or something like that. Yep. Amazing song. And it's no different than what he wrote back then.
And that's and Mitchell's really cool. So a buddy of mine wrote that new single with him, the We Got History song. And it's so cool because they've been writing forever. Like, they were great friends from the time they moved here. And it's the same guys that write that stuff, which is incredible. And that music, if you go back to like that first record with like Truck I Drove in high school and like then up to Drunk Me, I believe that was his first number one, and then Anything Shit, like all these other songs he had, it's been great since he started. And he stayed true to himself because think about it, there's a lot of pushback in the Nashville community for more pop-ish stuff in the country. He basically said, screw that. I'm going to do what I want because it's good music. And he was right. It's great music. So understanding that, it's your career. It's your music. You think George Strait cares what anyone thinks about his music right now? He's George Strait. He's stuck true to his stuff forever. He can do what he wants. Garth Brooks, the same way. You think he cares what Nashville has to think about whatever single he's promoting right now? It's like, no. All they want to do is their music because it speaks to them. And if it speaks to them, it's probably going to speak to their audience too. They know it so well. So it's knowing your audience. But no, Mitchell's a phenomenal example of that.
Who is an artist right now that you are aware of or you listen to that you feel like is just super underrated?
Oh, that's great. Honestly, a buddy of mine, Trey Landon. I don't know if you know him at all. Mm-hmm. Trey's great. He's got a lot of really good music coming out this year. I've been really excited about that stuff. He's phenomenal. He's killing it. He's touring again right now. He's been unbelievable. I'm trying to think of other acts. This Lauren Watkins record is unbelievable. I don't know if you heard that at all. She's been killing it. She just signed with Big Loud over there. She's been killing it. I'm really loving Larry Fleet right now.
Mhm.
Um, all that stuff has just been great, and he wrote that new "Man Made a Bar" song on the Wallen record, which has just been unbelievable. And
Right.
yeah, I mean, I've been so impressed. There's a really great class coming up in Nashville right now. Ashley Cook has been phenomenal. I think she's going to be awesome. She already is awesome, but I think she's going to keep killing it. But
Right.
it's I don't know. I mean, there's so many, and that's the problem with our industry. It's like pick of your favorite people. It's like, well, I hear 600 songs a day. It's like you pick your favorite artist right now. But I mean, it's Nashville. We're getting back to the good songs, which is good because for a while it was this, post it on TikTok. If it hits, release it. And a lot of it, and I think a lot of radio people have agreed with the sentiment that I'm going to say, but the music suffered for a couple of years there, and it wasn't the best stuff that's coming out. And I think we're getting back to a point where the songs are going to win again. I hope so, at least. Nashville is built on the songwriter in the song. And
Right.
that's at a core of Nashville. That's what it is. So, getting back to somewhere where we have hit writers that are writing those songs again that have can make you feel things. I always go back to Tony Arata, who wrote The Dance for Garth, right?
Mhm.
Like, that is one of my favorite country songs. It's top two. Troubadour is my other one. My friend Leslie Satcher wrote that one. But those two songs, if you listen to those two songs, it's like there's a reason they're still relevant, is my point. All those
Right.
songs right there. And like, because they speak volumes on so many different levels. And, nowadays you're just rhyming, beer with beer with beer and girl. And not to say there's anything wrong with that, but like, I think we're starting to get back to a point where a lot of the songwriters that have had a lot of success are getting cuts again
Right.
because the songs are meaning something again to these artists, and people realize, oh, I don't have to be in the room to get a good song. We have all these unbelievable songwriters who have made a living forever doing this. Why are we not using them? And I think we're getting back to that point. I hope so, at least. But yeah, the song has to win.
What one song is the one song that you look at and you go, "Damn, why did I not write that?"
Oh God, so many. I always compare everything to The House That Built Me, personally.
Mhm.
There's a running joke with some of my writers in town that, we need The House That Built Me idea to come in today, something like that. Because it's inherently, you're talking about a house, but are you kidding me? I mean, that I've not been in a room or seen that song live and not seen anybody crying. I mean, that's the kind of thing. A song like Buy Dirt, song like Till
Right.
You stuff like that. Or you could even go back to, I'll talk about The Dance again, stuff like that. That for me, it honestly, it harkens back to that kind of 90s country style of writing where it was more poetry. You had to think about it once or twice before you totally understood exactly what was going on. You knew what was going on, but the lyrics were poetic enough where it wasn't 100%, crystal clear the entire way through. You were required to think for yourself about what that meant and put yourself in that situation. And, The House That Built Me is one we always come back to, I would say, just because, Tom Douglas, Alan Shamblin. I mean, that song is just, it's perfect. It is literally, it's the definition of a perfect song. And again, but the crazy part about that song in Nashville is that was passed on for 7 years by so many artists, and Miranda finally cut it, and she's very smart too. It's an unbelievable song, but that for me just does a lot. I just think it's a great song. Lyrically, it's perfect. The melody's perfect. It's just an example of really understanding art, in my opinion.
Right. Well, let's take a short break and get into your new song,
Yeah,
because that's kind of what we're here for, other than to find out about you. But I want people to find out some more about your music and
do it.
hear that. So we're gonna take a quick 30-second break, and then we're gonna get in and play Mark's new song that's called "Dust Off That Dirt,"
There we
and we'll
go.
do that coming up here in 30 seconds.
B4Nashville is proudly sponsored by Go Tuners, the go-to tuner for professional and amateur musicians. Get your Go Tuner at gogotuners.com. By Heart to Heart Coffee, the coffee that gives back. Find out more at heart2heartcoffee.com. By Sibby's Apparel, worn by heroes, made with respect. Order yours at sibby'sapparel.com. And by Three Rangers Whiskey, not for the weak or faint-hearted. ThreeRangers.com.
you've been stuck anywhere but mud, been way too long since you've seen the sun set over them southern pines into a backwoods bonfire night. If your red wings are a little too clean, ain't putting no middle of nowhere miles on that off-white Jeep. You know where you gotta be. It's time to dust off that dirt. Hightail it to the outskirts. I trade 4 walls, 4 wheels, a front porch for a backfield. Because there's nothing quite like a little starlight moonshine good time. Raise a little hell on a slide, heaven on earth. Knock the dust off that dirt. Knock the dust off that dirt. Don't take much to shake off that rust. Find a faith in the Lynchburg stuff. Get lost off that county road. Your ride or dies and your girl in tow. Yeah, you feel right at home once you dust off that dirt. I tail it to the outskirts. Trade 4 walls, 4 wheels, a front porch for a backfield. Cause there's nothing quite like little starlight moonshine good time. Raise a little hell on a slice of heaven on earth. Knock the dust off that dirt. If it's red clay or green grass, whatever's in your glass, tip it on back wherever you're at. It's time to dust off that dirt. Hightail it to the outskirts. Trade 4 walls, 4 wheels, a front porch for a backfield. Cause there's nothing quite like little starlight moonshine good time. Raise a little hell on a slice of heaven on earth. Every now and then, oh man, it just can't hurt to knock the dust off that dirt. Knock the dust off that dirt.
All right, that is Mark Taylor and Dust Off That Dirt. And that is such an anthemic song. I mean, that is, it's got that, it's heavier than Calling Baton Rouge, if you want to look at Garth Brooks.
Yeah.
But it's along the lines of like a Jason Aldean type of thing, you know? So you're still in that early 2000s range, you know?
That's what we really wanted something that was going to kill live, and that's one of our we either open or close with that one, and it's just been killer live. I mean, it's such a fun song, and we have a 5-piece band that goes, and it is so much fun to play live, and that's what we were looking for. I wrote it with my buddy Dan Harrison on a day that I was skipping school, and I was late for an exam actually my junior year, and I'm so glad I was late for that exam because we wrote that song and we knocked it out in about an hour. And basically what the record is what we did that. I mean, it was really cool, and it was a really great, you know, lyrical day, and I love the melody of that song, and I just wanted something that screams single, you know, radio single. I really wanted to push it, and I really wanted to push the tempo, and I really wanted something that was going to be nuts live. And that, you know, if you've ever seen us live, I jump around. I'm a maniac on stage. I mean, I'm jumping around that whole time. I mean, I am dripping sweat by the end of this song 9 times out of 10. So we were really shooting for that, exactly like you said. I wanted that kind of grunginess to it a little bit to kind of put a little bit of oomph into it, but also where you can kind of dance, and it's got a little bit of that Baton Rouge vibe to it, if you will. But it's also a little bit of Aldean in there. It's got a little bit of David Lee Murphy in there. Got a little bit of kind of early Chesney in there. That's what we were really shooting for with all that stuff.
Right. I mean, it's kind of like when my wife cooks, it's a little pinch of this and pinch of that. Nothing's ever measured. It's just
perfect.
And I probably just got myself into trouble. I don't know if she's watching or not. But if she is, I love you, honey. So when with all the stuff that you've done, the places you've been to tour, and I'll ask it this way because I'm trying to avoid getting the same answer from everyone. Beside the Ryman, what is the one venue that you just absolutely would love to play?
My hometown venue is called Meriwether Post Pavilion in Maryland. And I've been fortunate. We've gotten to play a lot of really cool venues like Rams Head Live in Maryland, the Auto Bar, a lot of the really big stuff around there we've gotten to play.
Mhm.
Getting to play that would be the icing on the cake. Ryman's great, Opry's great, all that stuff is great. For me to go back and to be able to do a hometown, whenever we do a hometown show, it's just nuts. I mean, I love going back home and going to play for my folks in Maryland, and
Right.
that would be such a bucket list. If we could get into Meriwether Post Pavilion, I don't care if I'm playing in the parking lot. Just to do something in the general vicinity of that place. It holds probably 20,000, something like that. But
Wow.
I've seen so many shows there, and just to be on the flip side of that and get to entertain them would be the coolest thing to me. That would be such a bucket list moment.
Right.
Yeah.
And I love to hear about these venues because some of them I don't know about. Like
Sure.
that's one I don't know about. I've never been to a show there. I've never been to Maryland, so
Yeah, there you go. It's
that.
cool. It's definitely, they get a lot like Zach Brown goes through, but they do a lot of big
Oh,
acts,
yeah.
and it would be, I mean, just so cool because I mean, you have to understand us growing up in high school. It's like we would all go down. Everyone makes the drive. Back then, you try to sneak in whatever you could to the concert for beer or whatever, and you sit in the back row, and everybody's having a great time, and you're screaming, your hands are up, and there's not a care in the world. And I want to be able to give that to somebody. I want to give that experience to somebody from hopefully the stage one day.
And that's such a good vision to have is to be able to give somebody what you had when you were growing up. I mean, just like you said, um, with we talked about the festivals that you're going to be hitting up this year. If you could produce a festival yourself
Oh,
and you say it's a 3-day festival and you're going to handpick the headliners, who are your headliners going to be for each day?
gosh. Garth is headlining one day. Brooks and Dunn is gonna headline another day. Oh God, that third day. Mm. I'd like to say George Strait in there too. I feel like if I'm giving three '90s groups though, that might be a little generic for me. So we'll go with a combo. Here's what we'll do. We'll negotiate here. We'll do an alternate. We'll do like a surprise fourth day they don't know about because I want those three headlining. And then
Okay.
the Thursday, we'll do like a Thursday pre-party sort of deal, if that's okay with you. And I want
Fine.
Darius. I want Darius Rucker there. I
Uh,
love the vibe Darius gives. It is so much fun. If you've never been to a Darius show, it is one of the most fun things. Him and Jimmy Buffett have to do some collab at some point because it's just like it's the most fun. But no, Darius would kick it off on Thursday.
right.
Yeah.
Now, since you brought up that word collab,
Oh,
who is your ideal collaboration partner?
Lord. My ideal collaboration, male or female, or does it not matter?
Doesn't matter.
I would love. Oh my gosh, these are the hard pressing questions because the problem is I'd like to do a duet with everybody. I love singing with people and I love doing the thing, but oh my god, I'm gonna use a name I haven't said yet because I've been talking about a lot of the same people. Let's see here. I would love, give me Blake Shelton. I'd love to do a duet with Blake. I think that'd be super fun. I think that'd be cool. He's a little bit taller than me, by about a foot. I'm short, so I think it could work. I think he could rest his arm on me as we sang on my head.
Right.
But yeah, I'd love to do a duet with Blake. That would be super cool. Been a huge fan of his forever from the time Austin came out. I mean,
Mhm.
I love Blake, but yeah, that would be. We'll say that. I like that. I like that answer.
That's one that I don't believe I've ever had anybody say, but
I'm here.
it
There we
would be great. I mean, he hasn't really collabed with a lot of people. Trace Adkins.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. If you know anyone, let me know. I'm happy to. I'm happy to. Blake, if you're listening, let's do it, man. Let's
Right.
get together. I got a couple songs. I'm sure you do too. I can use
Right.
vocal on, man. Come on over. We'll make it happen ASAP.
Yeah, let's do a little bit for both.
Exactly.
Um, Perfect tour partners.
Oh my lord, these are the best questions. They're making me think. Perfect tour partners. I actually got to go out with Big and Rich in college, which it was so much fun. Oh my god, it was so
Oh, gosh.
a great time. I'd love to go out with Big and Rich again. They'd be super fun to go out with. Luke Combs, I would love to. I got to meet him a couple nights ago. He's just the most down
Oh,
to
wow.
earth guy in the world. Oh my god. If I could tour with Luke, that would be unbelievable. Honestly, this lineup that Luke has right now, it's like Luke Combs, Riley Green, Laney Wilson, Flatland Cavalry, and there's one other gentleman. I'm totally blanking on his name, but big songwriter. Um, it was a great lineup. It was unbelievable. But
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, that to tour with Luke would be such a bucket list moment. Oh my god.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I saw him locally,
Oh no way.
and this was with, quite honestly, Morgan Wallen,
Wow.
Jameson Rogers.
Oh my god, that's a lineup.
And the most hilarious part of it was Morgan Wallen had out like um, Up Down, The Way I Talk,
Yeah,
some of
yeah.
those. A couple of later songs, and I don't remember what they were at that time, but um, there was like four people that were backstage to meet him, and my wife and I were two of them.
Oh my god. Could you imagine now? Oh my lord.
I mean, it was funny because Cody Allen was there. Cody Allen
Absolutely.
um, from radio.
Yeah.
He was there and he was interviewing people for his CMT show about being out on tour. So
Yeah.
he was interviewing Luke Combs, and he had more people around him than Morgan Wallen had in the back. And Morgan come out and slayed it. Jameson Rogers had a few more. Of course, Luke Combs, I mean, it was unbelievable the people he had.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of, oh, my daughter wore a t-shirt that I don't know if I guess she bought it, that said long neck, the long neck ice cold beer
Ice
never
cold
broke
beer
my
never broke my heart. There you
yeah.
go.
She wore that, and my wife didn't get a chance to make ours because she had these camo
Oh,
3/4 sleeve, like the baseball t-shirts,
I know what you're
and
talking about.
she was going to put beautiful on hers and crazy on mine.
I love it. I love it, man.
So,
That's awesome.
but Luke was such a cool guy to chat with, and Morgan was too. I mean, he was really appreciative about the fact that we were there for the show, and he said, "I know you're here to see Luke Combs, but I hope that you'll enjoy what I'm doing."
That's amazing.
And the sad part is, a lot of times when we do that, we miss like part of the show because we're having to wait to get in. But luckily, we got to see some of his part of it.
Yeah.
And I mean, and then Luke Combs is coming back. He's going to be at Busch Stadium in St. Louis in June, I think.
Oh my god. Amazing.
So, and of course, I think Riley Green and Laney Wilson are going to be in that show. And Riley, I've known Riley I met him about 3 years ago.
Wow.
And that was not in Nashville. It was at the radio station I worked at. He was in the Deer Woods hunting.
Cool.
He came out, was going to a different spot, and said, "I'm just going to stop by this radio station and talk." So
Awesome. That's awesome. I love it.
So we hung out for a while, and stuff, and it's just really super cool. But
Sure.
that's one thing about country music. I mean, that I really like is the fact that it's so down to earth. It's such a family.
Yep. I mean, that's the whole thing. I mean, when we put out the song, it's like, not that we're getting any huge radio play, but there were 5 or 6 PDs at stations that I called, and I was like, "Hey, we've had this relationship for some years now.
Right.
Brand new song. If you want to play it, I'd love you forever. That'd be awesome. But if not, no worries. I'd love to hear your thoughts on it." And it's just been cool to, it's a family. Country music is a family. Be it radio, be it promotion, be it artist, label, whatever. We're all in this together. We're all trying to do the same thing. We're all trying to make everybody succeed, because if it works for one of us, it works for all of us. So,
Right.
And that's the synthesis between radio and, the artist, is that, and this has been lost in the last 2 years, and my generation starting to realize now that radio is not going anywhere. radio is still how you make money from your songs. Radio is still how songwriters get paid. It's like folks need to understand that. So, you know, connecting with radio folks and, you know, going to do that kind of thing and stopping in, bringing some donuts or whatever and saying, hey, it's like, you know, y'all are the reason that we can have a career, you know? So that's, it doesn't go unnoticed. And my generation's really starting to learn that now because they're like, why is Spotify streaming, you know, only paying me X amount of cents, you know, every time we get a stream? But, you know, so it's, you know, and that's a whole nother thing with all the DSPs right now. But, you know, it's radio is so important to our industry and people need to understand that more.
And the people that need to understand it, quite honestly, a lot of the younger people, because I've read there's a consultant out of Michigan and he does a tech survey every year.
Yeah.
And I read this tech survey religiously because it gives you such a good insight.
Yeah.
And one of the questions they had was about radio, and they do it, you know, break it down by age group. And they asked, you know, like something along the lines of, what do you consider a radio? When people would say their phone or, you know, Spotify or iTunes, and they had no idea what a radio was. They're thinking the DSPs are the radio.
Oh my God.
And that's one of the things that you've got to change the mindset.
Absolutely.
You know?
And that's exactly it. People, and it's no disrespect to the DSPs because they've changed the game in a positive way for, I think, a lot of things. But there was still, I still never forget when and where I was the first time I heard my song on the radio, and I had no idea it was coming. Like I will never forget that moment. I was sobbing in a car. I pulled over. I was like, this is the coolest thing in the world. And like that to me was such a special, and it's happened. We've been driving through some places. It's happened a couple times. I think some of the PDs know when we're coming through, but you know, it's so special. And there's something different about hearing it over the airwaves and tuning in and like, just not programmed. You know what I mean? Because you have no idea what's coming and when it's coming. And now I have so much respect for the radio guys, and just the whole game from radio in and of itself is something I have the utmost respect for. So it's been cool. And I hope more people, you know, that are my age understand how important the work you guys do actually is at the end of the day. Not just for the music industry as a whole, but, you know, also you guys put money in our wallets for playing our songs. So, you know, it's amazing. And I need more people to take it seriously.
Right. And that's the whole thing. I mean, and I don't think people really get that as to the importance to the artist about it. I mean, like you said, like I was telling you earlier, I've been in this industry. I've been in radio itself for 40 years. I've been in the country side of things for about a dozen years, 15, maybe something like that. But, you know, the times that I've interviewed an artist and played their song, you know, they come into the studio for a station visit and then they leave, and you always time it to where you wait till they leave to play their song because that may be the first time they've heard it on the radio.
Absolutely.
And then you get a phone call from them and they're going, oh my gosh, you're not going to believe this. That's the first time I've heard my song. And I'm halfway through this, you know, this radio tour or whatever.
Yeah.
And it blows you away to think, wow, you know, you kind of introduce them to your audience, which in turn introduces them to a whole new audience.
It was one of the biggest honors. And it's a small station in Maryland. Way out in the sticks, and I was one of their top requested artists, and I'm from there, so it was really cool to hear like my 2020, I guess it was 21 back then. But it was unbelievable because people would call in and I'd hear it and like they're, hey, can we hear this Mark Taylor song? Can we hear this by Mark? And it was the coolest thing because like you're saying right now, it's like, folks, when we come through these markets, it's like, you know, I'm 23, I know I'm a nobody right now, but like coming through and meeting everybody and shaking every hand and doing interviews and radio tours, stuff like that. It all builds so that one day we can be driving through, you know, middle of nowhere, Kansas somewhere. And now coming up next is Mark Taylor. That's what we all want at the end of the day, but it takes time to get there. So no, it is the coolest thing. Radio still is just the coolest thing to me. And it will never go away as long as I'm here. I'll tell you that much.
No, I will keep it alive and well as best I can.
There we go.
Short of buying a station, which quite honestly, right now, I cannot afford a station because they are fairly expensive.
Yes.
But How do people get in contact with you, or how do they find out more about you?
Yeah, there's a bunch of different ways. If you're loving the good old internet, like a good old website, you can go to www.marktaylorcountry.com. I'm gonna make this real easy for you too, because all of the handles, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, all that good stuff, at Mark Taylor Country. If you just Google Mark Taylor Country, all of it comes up. And look, even on the screen, I'll be Vanna White for a sec. It all comes up like that. MarkTaylorCountry.com. You could do all of that stuff right there. There you'll find tour dates. We're announcing them every day, it seems like at this point, and they just keep going on the calendar, and it's been great. So come see us on the road. We're doing a lot of really cool stuff. And yeah, we follow on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, Twitter. We're everywhere. So come find us on the road this summer and come say hey, and tell me that b4Nashville sent you.
Right, absolutely. I mean, we are tied to Facebook since this is going live on Facebook. So I think they're listening. That's why it popped up like that. If you're talking about something, it always pops up.
Hey, see, there you go. It's a Vanna White. There we go. I'll display it.
There you go. So again, check out Mark Taylor. Check him out on all the social media. Get to know him. Listen to his music. Just dust off the dirt. There's more great songs where that came from.
Absolutely.
So go check out Mark Taylor and let us know what you think. We'll have Dust Off the Dirt coming up on our playlist a little bit later on tonight. You can check that out on Spotify. We have our artist playlist where all of our artists, we put their songs in there. So you can go check that out and then move it over to your playlist. Put it on your playlist and you listen as well. And Mark will know that you did that.
Here we go.
It's always cool to do that. And in the meantime, Mark, thanks for coming on, man. I really appreciate it. And it's been an hour that has just absolutely flown by.
I cannot thank you enough. And thank you for all the hard work you do for us artists out there. We really appreciate you, George.
Absolutely. So you guys come back, because Thursday night we're going to have another artist on. And I'm not going to tell you who it is. You'll have to watch our Facebook and our Instagram to find that out. So until then, you guys take care. All right.
And that's a wrap. Thanks for joining us. Be sure to follow b4Nashville on all social media and listen wherever you get your podcast. Tune in again for another country star of tomorrow on b4Nashville with George Davis. I'm Kevin Casey on behalf of Worldwide Pants. Have a great night.